What is up, butters, flutters, and fresh hair cutters? Thanks for sitting down at the messy desk with me this week. Today, I want to talk to you about commitment. Now, I'm not talking about putting a ring on your finger, starting that forever journey with a special someone near and dear to your heart. I fully endorse it. It's a great institution. Highly recommend it. Marriage, 10 out of 10 would recommend. But today, the kind of commitment I'm talking about is committing to a sound, and more specifically, maybe knowing what sound to commit to. Often I find that when I'm working and I'm upset because a project isn't going a certain way I want it to, or things aren't sounding the way I want it to, it's because I haven't really keyed into what specific sound it is that I should be following. You start with a little nugget of inspiration, and that's well and good, and it gets you started. But if you develop a keen ear for where certain sounds are pulling you towards, the creative process can become a lot less strained. This is something I've been struggling with myself recently as I kind of battle through this creative block, is letting sounds pull me in a direction and following them there, following it to their conclusion and not fighting it. Oftentimes I'll realize something about this isn't working for me. And usually it's an element that stands out, a bass that doesn't sound quite right, a percussive element that sounds kind of off. And usually it's because you haven't committed to the sound that the track is pulling you in. So today I wanted to pull up this project. It's not really going anywhere. I don't think it's going to get finished or anything, but it's something that from the very beginning, I knew it was pulling me towards a certain sound. And so I followed it there, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. So let's talk about it. Okay, so where I started on this project was with this sample, and it sounds like this. It's just some FM chords, really simple stuff. And I knew right away that I wanted to put some chorus on it and some lo-fi to really dig in to that kind of lo-fi, old tape, lo-fi beats to study to feel. But as soon as I chopped it up and I listened to it, which sounds like this, I immediately flashed back to a sound that I'm a huge fan of, which is that early Odd Future, Tyler the Creator outro type beat. It just has this kind of low fidelity, compelling character to it. It's sort of hard to describe, but if you've listened to them in that era, like the 2010 to 2012, 2013 era, you totally understand what I'm talking about. And so naturally, I knew that it needed a big boy 808. But I knew I didn't want a kind of clean 808. What I wanted was a really kind of thick, boomy, but kind of tightly clipped 808 that I could distort the shit out of. And that's exactly what I did. I'm using a little trick here where if you use a high pass filter and then boost the resonance, think of this as an EQ. You're boosting the low end. You're going to get a bigger boom to your 808. So that's kind of what I did. And then I also distorted the shit out of it. And I pulled down the filter width so that we're only getting the low end. Because if I open up this filter, just listen to what happens to the 808. Ooh, I just love that. I'm doing some trig locking here where I'm opening the filter a little bit and increasing the decay of the envelope so you kind of get some dynamics, so it's not just this static plain 808. And this is where it's important to kind of know what sound you're going for, because sometimes in trap music you really don't want many dynamics to your hi-hats or to your 808s. You want them to kind of hit in the same way every time. But with Odd Future stuff, I always felt like there was a little more character, a little more stuff going on. Like there was always some sort of extra attention that no one really gave credit to. Like you can tell they spent more time on it than it seemed like. And so in that vein, I did the same thing here. And something that I really enjoyed about those kind of old Odd Future beats is that they were never quite exactly what my ear was asking for. Like when I hear that booming 808, I really want a heavy snare, right? But what Odd Future would often do, usually this is Tyler the Creator making these beats, or maybe Earl, is that they would use more minimal sounds, more laid back sounds to like hold you back a little bit. And as I get older, I kind of appreciate that more. An artist taking you where you don't expect them to go, and maybe even where you don't want them to go initially, but you come to appreciate it with time. And so I went ahead and did that, and I used this kind of snap with a little bit of lo-fi and reverb on it. It sounds like this. And then past that, I kind of knew I could take it wherever I wanted to. And this is where it starts getting a little less just fully mimicking a sound that I love and a little more putting me into it. So I put this vocal sample from an Igloo Ghost sample pack, and it sounds like this. And so you can hear that there's quite a bit of delay and some lo-fi going on. And what I'm doing is I have conditional triggers, so where sometimes it's a little more sample reduced and other times it's a little bit more amplitude modulated. So in context with everything, it sounds like this. Just a little variety, keeps things moving. And, you know, this is the second pattern here. Initially, it just sounds like this. Right? But when I moved to the second pattern, I knew I wanted a more active 808 pattern. And then I said, fuck it. I followed the sound where it wants me to go. Now I'm going to lead it where I want it to go, which is I am going to put a big snare there because I'm the big daddy and I make the big decisions. You can't tell me what to do, Earl and Tyler from Odd Future back in 2010. Love your music. Great stuff. Lyrics were a little edgy. You've kind of aged out of that, and I'm proud of you for that. But I'm going to put a big, boring trap snare on it, and that's exactly what I did. And it sounds like this. And I feel like it layers kind of nicely with the snap. Now, if I wanted to stick with that sort of really lo-fi vibe, something I could do instead of having a reverb here is I could maybe put a lo-fi, and let's listen to it with just the 808 and the snare. Let's listen. Ooh, I kind of like that. But yeah, you get it. Last thing I did that was kind of note is that I have this really, really dialed in lo-fi effect. You'll know it as soon as you hear it, which sounds like this. Just really, really pushing hard into that worn tape, like you're listening to it through an old Walkman, and then you bring it back and the 808 punches you in the teeth and you love it because it's that good kind of punch. It's that Hawaiian punch, except I'm not Hawaiian. I'm, well, look at me. I'm various shades of European. It's that European punch. Pow! Imperialism. Yeah. Ultimately, what I wanted to kind of do, and what I'm trying to do in these videos now, is try to give you advice that works on the octatrack, but also works in music creation in general, because I don't just make music on the octatrack. You don't just make music on the octatrack. And if you don't have an octatrack and you're watching this, you don't need one. Use whatever you have. Make music in however way you can, and just take this little technique. Next time you're making music, try to really listen, and listen to the elements that you have working in your track, and ask yourself, where is this logically leading me? If you have these housey stabs, you probably shouldn't put a trap snare in there. You should probably put in the house drums, right? If you have these really kind of droning ambient chords, maybe you don't put house beats under that. Maybe you put some drum and bass beats and get some glitching in there. You know, this is all really, really rudimentary stuff, but I find myself constantly relearning this stuff where I'm stuck on a track and I take a second and I realize, oh, this isn't working because this is not where the track is going. This is not where the track is meant to be. Let's take it out. Let's put what is meant to be in there. And maybe this is just me. I don't know. I don't think it is. But music can be so isolating. Sometimes it's easy to feel like, am I the only one thinking this? And I want to know, do you do this when you make music? Do you kind of look for an initial inspiration and then take it somewhere completely different? Or do you try to do like what I'm doing here, which is following what the initial spark is to its end? I will say that sometimes you follow what you think the initial spark is and it kind of leads to a dead end. At that point, maybe you flip the whole thing on its head and you take it where you don't expect it to go. You know, I don't know, because there's a billion different ways to make music and they're all valid. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You do what makes you happy. You follow the spirit of God, and may he be with you. Amen. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for me this week. I want to thank you so much for watching. You could have sat down with any freshly coiffed man on the internet, and for some reason, you chose to sit down with me, a messy man with stinky armpits and a blanket back there. So thank you for that. That's really awesome. My Discord is opening up a new sample contest, so you should go sign up for that. You can submit a sample, and we're going to vote on which one to flip, and then we're going to start flipping them. The submissions from the last one were fucking sick, so you should come listen to those and vote for the winner. And then come join us in the new one and have a great time. If you're looking at my octatrack and you notice that it's not plugged in, no, you're not crazy, I think. I can't guarantee that. There's actually just a battery in here, and my friend Robert is the one who did it for me. I made a video about that last week. I'll go ahead and put his contact information down there. He'll put batteries in your stuff too, and isn't that so freaking cool? So go to my Discord, join the sample flipping contest, talk to Robert, get some batteries, pay him American money for him to do it, or really any currency. I'm sure he's not picky. And we'll all be one big happy family under the sun. So anyway, I will go ahead and leave you with that. My name is Daniel. This is an auspiciously clean desk. And I love you more than I love cutting off all of my greasy, ugly hair. I'll see you next week.